One fight that I wish wasn't taking place, being broadcast on any platform, takes place this Saturday at the O2. And I've said it all the way through since it was announced. And that's Joe Joyce against Dereck Chisora. I've been quite clear as to why, but I'll repeat it again at the risk of boring everyone. I think that Dereck Chisora should have retired probably a couple of years ago. I know, I'm not saying it's our right to tell people they have to retire. He parcels all the medicals. He's fine to carry on. But I would have liked to have seen him retire a couple of years ago. I think he's slowed markedly from his prime, even though he's still managed to pick up the odd victory. I think his speech has deteriorated over time as well. I think Joe Joyce has had similar decline, but more suddenly, just from spending time with him, doing interviews and so on. He seems to not speak as well as he did before. His processing seems to take longer. And putting them together, in a way, I understand it because, similar levels you would hope, and they can do the less damage to each other. Like, you wouldn't want to put either of them in against a Deontay Wilder or, a huge puncher, or Zhilei Zhang again in Joe's case. But the flip side is the reason they are, declining already is because of the accumulation of punishment they've taken. So putting them in a fight where, it's likely to go into the later rounds or even the distance means they're going to take an inordinate amount of punishment yet again. And it's something where they've both already been to a certain level. I'm not sure either of them still harbour any true, sincere ambitions of winning a world title. It's probably at this stage just to make as much money as possible before retirement. At this point, for me, and it is only my opinion, the bad kind of outweighs the good. But yeah, Eamon, what do you think before we go to the chat?
I think the law of one last big payday, one last maybe big run, one last big run on the Saudi scene is too great for the fighters and their teams to let that opportunity go. I think this is a fight of real kind of, where else could we go other than match each other up with each other and see which one comes out, and then you can maybe shout out that the juggernaut is back, or look, Chisora has got one last big run in him, one last big win under his belt, and he's rolled back the years kind of thing. And I think it really kind of would only have worked with these two fighters. I think Dereck Chisora didn't look too great in his last fight against Gerald Washington. I think, obviously, Joyce didn't look all that great either in stopping Cash Ali. Maybe Joyce, with a bit more confidence, might have been able to dispatch of Cash Ali, who has proven to be levels below Joyce. He might have got that and done that a lot sooner. But I think there might be more that you would argue here that there's more life in Joe Joyce's career here, and maybe it is. I think the question from a Joyce's team side is, if you build back the confidence and you'll get back to being the juggernaut, and when you have the likes of Usyk say in the past, the fight I don't want to fight is Joyce. He just keeps coming forward, and you were pitching the likes of Joyce versus Joshua had it come through Zhang, and potential fights with Wilder and things. Like, as an asset, as someone who brings eyes to the table, and both Joyce and Chisora, from that point of view and a promotion point of view, you want to kind of build back your asset, but they could only do it against each other. I don't think it would be a pretty fight. I'm in the same sort of thinking with yourself, Danny, that this isn't the most appetizing of fights either. But there's too much of a lure on the table. There's too much reward at the end of this fight week to let go of it. I think I quite like the noise coming out of Frank Warren specifically saying that, look, either of these fighters lose and they should hang it up. This is the kicker here. This is where you end your career. I hope that's just not promotional talk here to sell the fight. I hope that's not the case. But Chisora's kind of already poo-pooed that and said, I want to have a certain amount of fights, and this doesn't fill the quota yet. He wants to have a couple more after this one. But they would have control to a degree over Joe Joyce and say, look, that's it. We won't promote you anymore. Whether he gets picked up by another promotional outfit is another thing. But there's too much reward here for both fighters to let go of, and unfortunately, that clearly outweighs them looking after their health.
Dennis Backtoff says, Frank saying Del Boy's fighting's prove him wrong after saying he should have retired 5+ years ago isn't good enough. Should pull him on that flex. I did pull him on it in the interview I did with him about a month ago, where I said, do you think he should retire? And he said, I thought he should retire 2 years ago. And I said, yeah, so is there then a conflict in you employing him for this fight? And his thing, what he did kind of, turn it round to say, yeah, well, if he wins, he's proved me wrong. And if he loses, then I was right all along, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, we haven't given him an easy ride. Thunder Road says, I hope Joe Joyce will dress up like a Deliveroo driver during this week's press conference. There's a sponsorship opportunity. Yeah. Deliveroo, they'll get your order wrong, but nothing will stop them delivering. Even Dereck Chisora. But yeah, if for anyone who's been living under a rock for the past week, that's a reference to Dereck Chisora. Apparently, he was being filmed getting into a fracas with a Deliveroo driver and planting the nut on him, which, yeah, didn't go down too well, although the Deliveroo driver did. Boom, boom. Dennis Baktov says, only Zhang has fought Joyce and not had a hard night. Joyce's decline isn't enough to lose to Del Boy. He'll gas after 4 rounds, and that's dangerous versus someone with Joyce's gas tank. Yeah, I'm not saying his decline's enough for him to lose the fight. I'm saying his decline's enough that he shouldn't really be fighting anymore and taking additional punishment to that which he's already withstood. Joyce, a lot was made in the past of Joyce having this thicker skull than the average human, and that's one of the things that enabled him to take a shot so well. Now, if you're going to say that about someone, they've proved that well they can take a shot for years against pretty hard punch. And they get absolutely walloped back-to-back fights by Zhilei Zhang, who is
having some connection problems here over on Seconds Out. Danny Flexen just stuck in motion as he was creating his point on Joe Joyce having the chin to take some of these bigger shots. I remember watching live, actually, the fight with Carlos. Just have it. Yep, got that there. We're on repeat, aren't we? But yeah, Joe Joyce was just having some problems with Carlos Takam, and he was shipping some overhand rights frequently throughout that fight. And he kind of got lucky that night that the fight was stopped off of the back of, he had a barrage, and Carlos Takam, it was suggested that he didn't answer back after, Joe Joyce's barrage there. But I would say he was keeping the defense tight and he was slipping punches, and he shouldn't have been stopped that night. That was a frustrating night from a Carlos Takam's perspective. But Joyce never really improved from that fight in his defense. He's always fought a certain way. He's always looked to kind of get that knockout, and he's been exciting for it. He's one of those fighters that whenever a Joe Joyce's fight is coming up, apart from the last fight against Cash Ali, but that was more because of the opposition, you're going to get similar in the vein of Amir Khan. Like, you knew you were going to get a good fight, an edge of your seat fight, because of the offense of the fighter and then the vulnerabilities of the fighter. So I think he's always kind of been underrated in terms of how exciting he is as a fighter, and he's had a good run recently. Dubois, Takam, Parker, obviously the 2 Zhang fights weren't exactly the best of runs, but he was very close, and he was fighting for, and he did capture the WBO interim world heavyweight title. So he was there ready to get a title opportunity for one of the champions. So that's how they'll see it here, really. He's probably 1 or 2 fights away from maybe getting that world title opportunity with, the rematch between Fury and Usyk standing in the way. We don't know what the situation is with Alexander and his signal to want to move down to cruiserweight after he's done at heavyweight with Fury. Whether that remains to be the case after that fight finishes, we don't know. But that's the situation from Joe Joyce's perspective. And I think that's why they've positioned him or that's why his team have positioned him to continue and want to continue, because he was so close to that world title contention. We'll bring in Danny Flexen back. He had some connection issues there. Nothing can stop Danny Flexen. I think the Secret Service were working tidily away to bring him back up, and here he is back in the fold.
Like a Deliveroo driver, I took the shot like a champ and got back up. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I was ranting on again about Joyce Chisora and why I don't think it should happen. And before I knew it, I was just old man shouting at clouds, which is pretty apropos. But yeah, so we're about to move on to segment 3 now, I think. But yeah, my salient point was that it's not a necessary fight, because they both had huge paydays earlier in their careers. They both taken huge punishment at heavyweight, the heaviest division. They're getting on in age. They don't need to fight. anymore, from what I've been told about their financial situations. They're not flat broke or anything like that. And people around them have said they should retire, both on record and off, not just Chisora, Joyce's case as well. And this is people that care about them. I'm not saying this because I'm, a boxing hater or I've suddenly fallen in with the British Medical Association, albeit I did work for them for 2 years in my younger life. I just think that it doesn't need to happen. Why make it? Is it going to be that much of an entertaining fight? Is it going to be a fight of the year contender? Is it going to be that good for fans that we need to risk the health that's already taken a pounding over the years from these two warriors, people we've, delighted in watching? Surely we don't want to see them struggling in later life after everything they've given to us. But that's all I'm going to say about it for today anyway, publicly. I'm sure I'll moan about it a lot more before Saturday night. And I'll probably watch it, depending on how late it is, as it is a Frank Warren main event. But we'll see. I was at a Frank Warren main event live on Saturday night in Birmingham. It was probably the only chance of me staying up for it, because I was actually there and I couldn't just fall asleep in the floor seats. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it gets on, early enough. But I wouldn't put it this way. I wouldn't be upset about not watching it if it comes to it.